I think the risk benefit of a lot of this isn't necessarily talked about because people are just kind of reaping the small, convenient benefits of it, which is fine. I understand people are busy and all of that. But, I personally ideologically view a lot of what's going on like as, we're in a war. It's not really just an info war. It's a war for, humanity and like the human soul and our ability to create. And if we stop creating and start outsourcing that to AI, we're screwed.
In this recent interview on the Independent Media Alliance, IMA, with Whitney Webb, we learn about the manipulation of AI in media, the risks of over-reliance on technology, and the implications of decentralized journalism. Whitney discusses how AI can distort information, the dangers of blindly trusting technology, and the potential for independent media to reclaim narrative control. Before we begin this discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel. Now let's hear more from Whitney Webb.
I think right now we're at the building trust phase of AI, the carrot opposed to the stick. And I think that the more that people rely on it, the more they're going to eventually hemorrhage their ability to investigate without it, their ability to think creatively without it or critically without it. And I think ultimately it's meant to be a gradual process, but it's a process that's intended to happen as people become more dependent on it over time. You have extremely bad people like Henry Kissinger and Eric Schmidt openly saying this is the intent of it years ago in a book they wrote together, that this was basically the intended plan of it. So now, it's all fine to use for this and that. We can all find, reasons, why it might be convenient and all of that. But ultimately, I've been talking for a few years, and sorry for being extra congested today. But basically convenience is the way to get us to go into this future technocratic system. A lot of people that have been warning about this for a long time have been like waiting for the stick, waiting for the violence. But it's really meant to be, in my opinion, a way to sort of engineer voluntary acquiescence to these systems that are being built. And I think AI is the ultimate way to do that. And that eventually people, if you don't use it, you lose it, kind of like Derek mentioned with Google Maps and navigation skills or mental math and relying on calculators. This is the same type of function, but now it's being used by people, like is this real example to AI? AI hallucinates and presents wrong output all of the time. So how are you going to ask it if it's real or not? And our controllers, people like Schmidt and Kissinger, want us to do that because they want us to use AI as the arbiter of what is real and what is not, and using AI at the same time to basically spam the digital realm with things that are not true, but we think are true, so that we fail to really have confidence in being able to distinguish between what's real and what's not. And so, personally, I think, a lot of people are going to rationalize and de-rationalize their use of AI. And that's fine. I'm not really interested in telling people what to do, but I think a lot of people engage with it without being aware of the risks or the ultimate designs of what it is. And how, we as content creators can be very manipulated by it and by algorithms and by commenters that may not be real people or bots of them. I mean, keep in mind that the biggest bot farms are run by states, militaries, generally. And you have, one of the main social media sites now also being owned by an AI company, but it's run by a major military contractor. There was a story a few weeks ago about fake AI people on Reddit changing actual people's opinions just by spamming their takes, I guess. And humans have, always been swayed by the opinions of the herd and all of that. And now they have micro data on all of us by having, decades on most people of data of their decisions from the minute to the big, and are able to, pinpoint specific demographics and herd them to specific conclusions. And I think really there's not enough discussion about how that impacts our discourse, even as independent media. Obviously all of us like to think of ourselves as independent free thinkers, but if you post a video or post a thing and it's spammed by some comment, bot army that's super negative about it, maybe you won't talk about that stuff again and you'll think they're real people. I mean, a lot of us don't necessarily think about that because, the internet, even 5 years ago, was really different than it is today. Well, I have more I could say, I guess, but I think the risk benefit of a lot of this isn't necessarily talked about because people are just kind of reaping the small, convenient benefits of it, which is fine. I understand people are busy and all of that. But, I personally ideologically view a lot of what's going on like as, we're in a war. It's not really just an info war. It's a war for, humanity and like the human soul and our ability to create. And if we stop creating and start outsourcing that to AI, we're screwed.
As we just heard Whitney Webb discuss the manipulation of AI in media, now let's hear him elaborate on the risks of over-reliance on technology and the implications of decentralized journalism, his insights on how AI can distort information, and the importance of maintaining editorial integrity provide a unique perspective for every savvy investor and media consumer. Now let's listen to what Whitney Webb has to say.
So I personally think all of these technologies that have at their inception some sort of national security state component that have become widely adopted have a carrot and a stick phase. And I think the internet has had a very long carrot phase. But if you go and look at the origins really of the internet in the 90s, it was a lot of framing it as decentralized and all of this and getting people on it, getting people to trust it and become dependent on it, which now the world is, especially economically. And then you want access to the internet, you have to use our digital ID system or our programmable surveillable money system, et cetera. Like that is the stick that we all kind of know is going to come at some point, right? Because it's centralized through the ISPs. You want access to the internet, you have to go through an ISP, and how many meaningfully decentralized, freedom-loving ISPs are there? Well, not many. And for places that didn't really have access to an ISP before, they're all being herded onto Starlink, which is basically an extension of the US military, right? And so I think, in addition to that being the case for AI, I think it was true for things like Bitcoin, which was framed as initially decentralized freedom money. Did it have that potential just as the internet had that potential at one point? Sure. But now it's being herded into not being a medium of exchange, which is the only use case, in my opinion, that would allow it to be any sort of freedom money. And it's moving into, strategic reserve asset for Larry Fink and, the oligarchy. And combining it with stable coins and all of that makes it an Orwellian system that's no good. So at least no good for freedom. Depends on who you're talking about, I guess. And so I think AI is ultimately going to go in that same direction. Are there decentralized AI companies now that are small little guys? Sure, but at some point, the big guys are going to take the cake, right? Because AI is only as good as the data it has access to and it trains on. Who can afford to have access to the big troves of data? The people that are really teamed up with the state that hoovers all of that data up about us consistently. And I think a lot of it, I also want to bring back my point that I made much earlier on about how a lot of these incentives of the algorithm as independent media creators have changed us, maybe compared to when we started independent media. For some of that was about a decade ago or so. And for me, and I can only really talk about my case, but my interest is I have content that I am interested in writing about. I want to put it out. I'm not a fast content person. I put out stories when I have them. Sometimes, like lately, I've had to do a lot of kid stuff, so I haven't been writing as much. But I don't personally have to put out a thing every day or every week like a lot of people do. And so, I'm a little delinked, I guess, from some of those incentives, but people that have them, there can be a pressure to talk about certain topics that they feel like everyone is talking about, or incentivized to, respond to negative comments, or get involved in online drama and all of this. And I think a lot of the way social media has developed recently, and the censorship stuff that's happened, there's like conversations that need to be had that haven't been had. Like, I think inevitably platform hopping, which has been like the independent media response to digital censorship, is eventually it's a dead end. Because originally it was like, oh, we're gonna go from YouTube to Rumble. Oh, the Rumble that like JD Vance invests in and Peter Thiel invests in, and like the whole Palantir crowd has the data of. So much better, right, guys? So I mean, eventually, I'm not saying there aren't good platforms, but we saw it with Gab several years ago. They pulled it out by the roots, by the DNS, and ultimately, a lot of that can be done to anything digital. So, I'm working on putting all of my stuff in physical form, because I really think physical media is the future, something people can read and hold, and they can't just like remotely censor it or cut it off from people.
To watch the full interview, check out the link in the description. Whitney Webb reveals that AI's manipulation of information poses significant risks. The dangers of over-reliance on technology threaten critical thinking, and decentralized journalism offers a path to reclaim narrative control. We would love to hear your thoughts on some questions. How can independent media protect itself against AI manipulation while maintaining integrity? Will the rise of decentralized journalism reshape the media landscape? Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this discussion, please subscribe, like, and share our video for more engaging content exploring the innovative world of decentralized technologies. SIM swap fraud is sweeping the globe, and your mobile security is at risk. Switch to Ifani and lock out SIM swap fraud and get the most elite mobile protection in the world. Ifani guarantees 100% protection from SIM swaps, backed by a $5 million insurance policy. Stay secure with reliable coverage, free international roaming, and unlimited data. Trust Ifani to keep your communications and assets secure. Get military-grade protection, 24/7 concierge service, and a hassle-free upgrade. Click the link below for $150 off. Thanks for watching. Help support this channel and receive exclusive offers from one of our partners located in the description. We'll see you on the next one.